Hello, I am Nova SC, and this is again not SC. As you can quite clearly see, there's no minerals and stuff like that. And this is a weird map, obviously made by a 5-year-old, and there's little circly things. Anyway, yes, this is my mod named Vast, and the map is the Runway. I'm just making this to show you the progress I've made over the last 4 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I uploaded a video showing you this race that I've made here. It's called Psyche, which is obviously based off the Terran models, but all these ideas I've had before I've played StarCraft 2, so there's going to be huge amounts of variation, and I can show you the first thing that I've changed in the last couple of weeks. Obviously this didn't take 2 weeks, but yeah, here's the huts. It used to be the supply depot model. I've changed it to like a civilian hut, which makes more sense considering it is actually a hut, and other things like that. And I've changed a lot of the build times to make them balanced with the... I've sort of spoiled the surprise, to make it balanced with the second race which I've implemented, and I've implemented the second race now called Elementals, the Elementals, which I will show you after I've shown you everything that I've added to the old race. So Martyrs still pretty much the same. Oh wait, with the exception, their life has been increased quite substantially. In fact, every unit that I've made so far, I've increased their life by 50%, just to make battles last longer. And the problem I was having is, though most of the battles were sort of fair and balanced, my mic is out of position, sorry, though they were mostly fair, they lasted about 2 seconds, some of them, especially through the tier 3 units, because I have a big emphasis on splash damage in this game, so yeah, almost doubling the life seemed like a good idea, and it has worked out quite nicely so far. We've got some more micro seems to be involved in the battles, because you have time to bring units back to the back lines. The opposite of front line is back line, maybe to the rear guard, something like that. Anyway, yes. Next change. The model for RPG Expert has changed from Marauder to Hammer Security, just trying to make it as different from StarCraft 2 as possible. I'll just show you that once I've done that. And I've changed all the tooltips here, well, some of the tooltips which were wrong, and some of this writing here, some of it said like factory and stuff instead of robotics center. So I've added some consistency, changed these things, these explanations here. I've added text to loads of things around the map. So these are the things which will be used somehow by the next race, which I'm going to show you, and they're called conduits. An area of heightened spiritual power that allows the creation of a sunstones from a spirit. That makes no sense if you haven't seen the race yet. So my armory is almost done. I've extended, these take longer to build, a couple of other things take longer to build, because this race was extremely overpowered compared to the elemental race. That's because they could produce, this race's production is much better than the elemental race, just generally, so I had to extend some of the building times to make it fairer, and I've done that. And the way I did that was I just timed how many tier 1 units it can make in a set period of time, and this made about twice as many as the other race. So I made these take twice as long. The huts they'll take twice as long to build. They take 60 seconds compared to 30. On hindsight, 30 seemed a bit stupid. And something else I've done, can't remember what it was. Oh, and these cost twice as much now. They used to cost only 50 metal or gas. So these used to only cost 25, which again seems stupid. It's like you make these changes and then... Oh, and I haven't changed the icon here. That should be... That icon there should be a different picture. This picture. That should be that. Anyway, so here's the RPG Expert. It's now got the beautiful artwork of a Hammer Security. And that's all the small changes that I've made to this race, and I'm going to jump into another game really smoothly and show you the other. So here I am in game, playing with some shiny things, and I have this big rock in the middle. What the hell's up with that? Wait a second. Very good. So, this is the elemental race. As you can see, we started off with 3 of these little guys, which look like probes, but not quite probes. And we get this massive rock, which is called a sunstone. So basically what this race does is you have this sunstone produces spirits every 15 seconds, well one at a time, and you have spirits which look like probes, but they're actually cloaked units which can't really do any damage. They do 1 damage in a period of 1.5. They have a range of 2, so they shoot at range like this. If I can get them to fire it like that at range, but they can only shoot epic units. They should only be able to shoot epic units. It doesn't actually say. I haven't changed this to epic. Anyway, yes. Moving on. Yeah, they can only attack scary things, and because otherwise that would be busted because they're cloaked and they're free and they build every 15 seconds. So even though they look like probes, they act more like drones, as you can see, as I'm going to show you here. They sacrifice themselves to build things. You even get the lovely drone sound of a mutation, which is beautiful. And you can also sacrifice them to turn themselves into harvestable spirits, and then use a grand unit to collect them. Run into the pylon model, and then you get 100 gas, which represents 1 spirit that you've collected, and you can use that to build things. So, for example, a magmatic fortress requires 150 mana, which you collect from the bridges, and 1 spirit, which is 100 gas. It's sort of confusing, but I'll be changing as many of these icons as possible to keep it consistent as possible. So, for example, I've changed that to mana, and so it doesn't say minerals anymore, it says mana. And the bridges are supposed to have an icon which says they produce mana. Not sure where that's gone. I'll definitely do something about that though. Okay, so another thing to note is how come none of these buildings are near pylons but they're still powered? It's because this sunstone is extremely important. It doesn't regenerate or anything, and it powers everything on the map. So if you had a building here, this sunstone would power it. But if you lose the sunstone, none of your buildings work except from bridges, because they're basically mineral fields. And yeah, none of your buildings work. You can't produce units, and you'll soon surely die. So you've got to keep this sunstone alive. You can produce more, and if you produce another one, you need 400 mana, and then you place it onto a conduit. So when I have enough money, I'll do that later and show you later. Yes, so the first tier 1 structure we have is a Sky Sanctuary. So why is that so hard to say? It's pretty hard to say, to be fair. And that produces 2 tier 1 units. It produces Spark Storm Elementals and Lightning Storm Elementals. Neither of them require a tier 1.5 structure to build. You can both build them straight off the bat. And the Spark Storm Elemental is a very fast unit which attacks at range of 3. It's nothing like a Zealot. It has a completely different role. It's more of a scout than anything else. So it runs around. If you have really good micro, you can have it beat light infantry and things like that for the Psyche builds, the Psyche race builds. And the Lightning Storm Elemental is actually quite a lot like a Stalker, but it doesn't have blink. So I'll show you that. It shoots a lot slower than a Stalker, but deals a lot more damage. So shoot. It one-shots them. Interesting stuff. 24 damage. So that's quite a lot of damage it deals in one shot. And as you can see, they have 120 life and 100 life. They have quite a lot of life, but that's just because I've scaled up all the life points so far. So now I'll generate some spirits. I'll harvest some spirits so that I can build some more buildings to show you more stuff. Okay, what else should I build? Okay, the other tier 1 structure is a Dark Grotto. You can't build a Dark Grotto without a bridge, because it's for defensive units. I'll explain that in a second. Whereas you can build a Sky Sanctuary before bridges, similarly as Psyche can build weapons facilities immediately. You can build Sky Sanctuaries immediately. But rushing isn't quite as strong with this race as it is with Psyche. More spirits as they're free. And I'll build another bridge, because bridges are fun. What else can I build? The tier 2 structures are Magmatic Fortress and Oceanic Portal. These are tier 1, these are tier 2. you need at least one tier 1 structure to build a tier 2 structure, and each tier 2 structure provides 2 new units, and one for each of one per tier 1 structure you have, if that makes sense. So Dark Grotto unlocks 1 new unit in the Magnetic Fortress and 1 new unit here. Sky Sanctuary unlocks 1 new unit here and 1 new unit in the Oceanic Portal. Very all confusing stuff, but it's not really much more difficult than StarCraft 2. It's probably easier, in fact, because I have less units. But yeah, I have less units, but you can get them all earlier, but only a few of them earlier. I'm explaining this badly, but you can. There's a bigger variety of things you can do very early on in this game, and I just like all the decision making you can do. So this is via Firestorm Elemental, you get that from building the Sky Sanctuary. Magma Elemental, you get that from building the Dark Grotto. I'll build a couple of these units right now. More. And Oceanic Portal gives you Waterfall Elemental, Ice Storm Elemental, and an Elemental Displacer if you're at tier 3 tech. There's a lot of stuff here. And the Dark Grotto, which is the tier 1 structure, gives you Gravel Elemental, Boulder Elemental, and a Slate Elemental if you have tier 3 tech. Seems like there's shit tons of units, but there's actually less than in StarCraft 2. It's just you can get them all very fast depending on how you open. I mean, if you're playing properly, you wouldn't have access to all of these units, because you probably only build 1 tier 1 structure, and therefore you're getting only 1 unit from out of each of these. So in a proper game you'd only have access to maybe 3, but there's many choices from which you can choose, depending on what you see for your opponent doing, for example. So here's a Firestorm Elemental. The Firestorm Elemental's a lot like a High Templar, because it's got the model, but it shoots very fast. It shoots very fast flames at people, and you can research this upgrade from the Firestorm, which is the Firestorm upgrade, to let it use its Firestorm, which is like a Psystorm but covers twice the area and deals almost half as much damage. So it's better in the late game, not so good in the early game. I'm gonna stop soon. I've been talking a long time. But I'm just gonna show you a couple more things and then I'll call it a day, because I could literally talk for about an hour on this. So many things that I can show you. This was another one of the tier 1 units. A Gravel Elemental. It's very slow. You can't really tell because everything moves slowly in the map editor. But it has 1.7 move speed, and it shoots. It shoots like a Colossus. Yeah, it shoots like a Colossus. So it was doing those sort of Colossus-y lasers like that, and it deals damage to multiple units at the same time. Very good against light infantry and against Sparkstorm elementals. So if you see your opponent massing units, you can get these guys out and deal with them quite cost effectively. This is a Boulder Elemental, again another defensive unit, moves very slowly, and it's a bit like an Immortal. It doesn't have a shield, and it doesn't deal damage to defensive units and Vindicator units. So the Vindicator units would be workers, defensive units would be Gravel Elementals, for example, because they're very slow and used to defend your base. Yeah, and like you can see, I've actually changed all the names to Vindicator, so you've got the right classes. I've got Offensive, Heavy, Light, Vindicator, Heavy Defensive, that's really cool. Got Epic there. I can show you Firestorm. Oh, ooh. So you can see massive area. It doesn't deal too much damage though, so it's very good in the late game, but not so good in the early game because the Firestorms are going to die, the Elementals are going to die off, and their base attack that actually deals a small amount of damage itself. It's quite useful, and it moves quite fast as well, 2.25. So it's a lot different to the a High Templar. It's more of a core unit than a supporting unit. And I think I'll just show you one last thing, because this is going on a long time. And I'll probably make another video to finish all this stuff off. And lots of new upgrades. Interesting thing to note is the Sunstone, you can either produce spirits which you need to get this resource, or you can have it research things. So like I researched Firestorm, you can research Intensify Hellfire, which increases the damage dealt by Magma Elementals, which are these dudes, which have the Preserver model. You can get Spiritual Independence, which makes these into Sky Battalions, which don't work like Warp Gates. They actually train units anywhere on the map, even if you don't have power, because this gives power to everything. So you can just, if you have vision, you can just warp in 10 units here out of nowhere and just have them attack, which is quite hilarious, I thought. Obviously you can't warp in, these are quite weak units, so you can't warp in, it's not too overpowered, you can't warp in crazy big things. But I still thought it was quite fun. Very good strategically as well. These are pretty good against workers. So against Psyches especially, you can have them kill off workers which are mining from huts. I don't have enough money, so I can't build 2. I was hoping to build 2, but yeah. This is the tier 3 unit for elementals, which, as you can see, has got a mothership model. And it doesn't cloak, it doesn't have any of those silly abilities, it's just a big thing which attacks 2 units at the same time, and it's a lot of fun, and takes a long time to build. One more thing. Archons are very easy to build, you have shit tons of those in an army, so that's quite fun. Ice Storm Elementals have Fungal Growth, which doesn't deal damage, which I like a lot, because you can make lots of these Spark Storms. And combined with their mobility, combined with the freezing of opponents' units, you can really exploit slow armies, which I really like. Other than that, I do have some other things to show you, but I'll leave that for another day because this has gone on for a while. I hope I brought across my enthusiasm for this project. I hope you play this game. It's called Vast. You can find it on the EU server at the moment. Once I finished it completely, it'll be on all servers. But for now, this build you've got here with these 2 races, you can play right now. Here's a Cosmic Elemental. It does quite a bit of damage. But yes, hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Please do play it. It's called Vast. I'm having a lot of fun making it. Please make my day by giving it a play. Complaining about balance. That will amuse me a lot. Yes, see you later.